Continuing my look into Senator Bail Organa, the adoptive father of Princess Leia Organa, since he keeps being brought up and talked about in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, I decided to look at one of his earliest appearances in the Star Wars Rebels animated series. Actually, it would in fact be his earliest appearance, in that series, since it is the third episode of the first season of Star Wars Rebels. We're still getting to know the main cast of this series, and it's at this time that the series characters run into R2-D2 and C-3PO. Obviously iconic Star Wars characters who need no introduction to the audience. But it's very interesting to see how they are woven into this plot. Now, our main characters, the crew of the Spectre, are on a mission to get some credits and maybe mess with the Empire at the same time by stealing a shipment of prototype weapons. And it just so happens that these weapons are being traded to the Empire from an alien who cannot speak Galactic Basic, so who should be along to translate but C-3PO, and for some reason R2-D2 is along also. Now, C-3PO and R2-D2 in this large stretch of time between the end of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and the beginning of Episode 4, A New Hope, R2-D2 and C-3PO are in possession of Bail Organa, who is behind the scenes helping to set up the rebellion against Emperor Palpatine. So their presence here means that there's probably something else up aside from what our protagonists have planned. We learn from R2-D2, well, from characters speaking for R2-D2, because I, like many audience members, don't happen to speak binary, that R2-D2 was sent on a secret mission from his owner, Bail Organa, to make sure that the Empire doesn't get these weapons. C-3PO, being a anxious blabbermouth, tattletale, is not let in on these plans. Now, it's very easy to imagine behind the scenes that this Imperial officer is like, oh, I need to do these talks, and Bail Organa very kindly, the senator, oh, you can use my translator droid for this mission. Again, not sure how he talked R2-D2 into being involved in the mission, but it is cool getting the glimpse that, yeah, Senator Organa told R2-D2, hey, these weapons are dangerous. Do not let them get into the Empire's hands. I don't know what R2-D2's plan was for that, but it obviously ends up working out. The Empire does not get these weapons, but that's because of the intervention of our series protagonists, the crew of the Spectre. And we also get to learn from dialogue, which I think is really well done. I mean, even for a kid's show, especially for a kid's show, because it's a kid's show, we can't talk about, like, the gruesome things that these weapons can do. But we do get a dialogue exchange between Hera and Ezra, where Hera says, do you know what these weapons do to a biological life form? Ezra's like, no. She says, well, Zeb does. That's the weapon that was used on his people. And it's like, woo! We know these weapons can take down a starship in a single blast. Don't know what they can do exactly to a biological life form, but seeing his reaction to these weapons, him being so moody, and that brief dialogue exchange really sets up the stakes for this. It shows why Senator Organa would risk his two droids being involved in the Empire not getting these weapons. Because, I mean, really, it's a pretty desperate plan when you think about it. These droids belong to Senator Organa. If R2-D2 is sent in alone to make sure that the Empire doesn't get these weapons, I don't know what the plan there was. But it is cool to see that Senator Organa is aware of these workings within the Empire and using his position and influence to try to stop these things. While also, it just so happens that another group of, like, small-scale rebels get involved, our heroes. They get involved, they take care of the situation, so at the end of the episode we see Senator Organa like, yeah, R2, I'm glad you were recording that whole thing. I do want to know what you learned from the Empire side of things, but I'm more interested in these rebels, because Senator Organa, behind the scenes, is putting together the Rebel Alliance that we later see his daughter take up the cause of leading after A New Hope. yeah, I mean, that's really why I went back and watched this episode. It's also good. It continues to set up the main characters of the Rebel series. It's only the 3rd episode. It comes right after the 2-part pilot. So it's good for establishing those characters. It sets up some plot lines, especially with Zeb, that we see throughout the rest of the season and the series itself. And using legacy characters like R2-D2 and C-3PO to set up some fun connections to the main Star Wars universe, to get some people to watch the show like, hey, I know R2-D2 and C-3PO, I want to see them in here. And they're used well. So yeah, it's a fun episode. Gives a little bit of insight into, like, some small in the scale of, like, Bail Organa putting together the entire Rebel Alliance, or helping to, obviously, with Mon Mothma, too many M's, and other Rebel leaders, but also, like, hey, here's a small thing that he's doing, or having his droids do, to also set back the Empire on the side, and put some good into the galaxy. So, yeah, it's cool to see. Not like, you know, the best episode of Star Wars ever, but a good starting point for the Rebel series, and some good insight into the beginnings of the workings of the Rebel Alliance before Luke, Han, and Leia join in the fight. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm talking about some other Star Wars animated episodes soon, mostly right now, ones that tie into the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, even if it's loosely. But I'm having a good time going back and looking at some of these things, and I hope you'll join me. You can check out some of these videos right here, it is somewhere on this screen. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and have a good week.